Just quickly introduce you to everyone here. Mr. Uno, Tomoaki Uno, is, like I said, the only architect today presenting. So enjoy. He has set up his own studio about 30 years ago, and he's been working in a city of Nagoya. It's been pretty much sort of under the radar until quite recently, even below my radar. But he does. He has been steadily building up portfolio of amazing one-off houses, mostly. And I went to see one of his projects, which actually was an office, and within which he kind of created this mini forest in the suburb, kind of outskirts of the city of Nagoya, and working with this amazing client of his for whom he has built a house previously. So the client, I think, has trusted him to do things, and it was like an open brief for him to do whatever he wanted to do. And the main thing was that this client ran a business importing clothes, and so it was just him, and he wanted to open up his office to wider public and host events and so forth. So this is a space that he has created for this client. And I think hopefully Mr. Uno will speak about this amazing project today, but a bit more about how he got to where he has. Okay, thank you. Uno-san, どうぞ始めてください.
Please start, Mr. Uno. Pleased to meet you. I'm Uno, architect. Sometimes I have application from internship from the area school. There was one until 3 months ago. The student worked for about 10 months. So I receive intern applications. But my calendar is so full, and we have no capacity to accept new applications. But I have connections with the AI school, and it's a great opportunity to speak to you today. This is the summary of my talk today. By the way of introduction, I had a chat with Yuki, and I understand that half of the audience is the AI school students, and the rest is from outside. And I've talked about my work, and I also want to talk about myself, my upbringing, which is followed by my philosophy of my work as an architect. And I want to close my talk by talking about tomato arts, which Yuki touched on earlier. I have only 40 minutes, and I'm not too sure how far I can go, but let me try. Firstly, I would like to talk about my work. I have probably 10 slides talking about recent work. This is what I did 5 years ago. This is a one-story house. This is the inside and outside. I did it 4 years ago, Ogimachi House. This is a home of a client of Mate-to-Work, after which I established Mate-to-Work. This was shown in media. There's no window apart from the ones on the ceiling. I used a traditional way of building the house. This is a totally different reinforced concrete house. This client is a retired university professor, about 60 years of age. We have a staircase, and this client wanted to read books on the steps. Half of the space and cost was spent on the staircase, and there's no window apart from the ones on the ceiling. This is Takamine House, which I designed 3 years ago. Client wanted to see the landscape garden with stones from inside. I wanted to take an architectural approach to stones. We don't have tradition of using a stone structure in Japan, so I was inspired by the pyramid, using some concrete. As you can see, this is done this year. House of a young person. There aren't so many windows. We have the ceiling is like a waffle kind of structure, and on the sides, both sides, one room of living, dining, and kitchen, and bedroom and kids' room. This is the structure. The outside structure, wooden structure, I used boxes for the structure and inside. This is the most recent one. I work in Nagoya city, which is in the middle of the country, and my hometown is Nishio city, which is lies west of Nagoya, and I have a commissioned project here, close to the coast. Or this house is nearby the coast. A company wants to use this as a guest house or showroom for their products. They developed a jar for cooking brown rice. This house is used for the owner's own home as well as a guest house. There was one request that the owner wanted to view the ocean from inside. The upper part is the home, owner's home, and guest house. Structurally speaking, it may look like a traditional method, but I used modern fittings, metal fittings, using a ramen structure with a wooden structure. It looks really simple and modern. Very different from a traditional way of doing it. I always think about how I can integrate tradition and modern methods. Looking back, I think I did a pretty good job doing it. So I use concrete and wooden as materials, not so much on reinforced concrete. This is my first time I show anyone my childhood pictures. This is my father. He was a plasterer. And I was, when I was little, I was taught to become a plasterer. It was a painful experience for me to do hard work and try to escape from that. After middle school, I didn't go to high school. That was I was told, and I was told to do apprenticeship, but I managed to get into high school. But father insisted that I should be a plasterer. So it's not that I wanted to be an architect when I was little, but I have this environment related to architecture. This is my mother, and you see the back of my head of myself. This is a place close to my own home, almost 60 years ago. In the suburbs, it's not the mountainous areas, but away from the city. You see a field, and I was playing around in these fields. The person behind me is in order for you to you learn your trade in Japan, you work with your master. You work for your master, living with him. That's our tradition. So this gentleman behind me, he was eating and sleeping with us in our home, living together, learning the trade as a plasterer. He was learning your skills. On the left-hand side, I have my cousin. He became a carpenter who helped me later. The big guy. I would like to talk about the architect's freedom. Slightly on a different topic. Later, I became an architect anyway, but I think it's the same in the UK. But you do your drawing and give it to the construction company. You have limitations as architect after doing that. That's I felt really uncomfortable about the lack of freedom. Why I have no freedom? You do. You follow your decision. You follow the studio's decision, and there's a lot of limitations in terms of architecture. You have the freedom to pick things, But the bottom line is the construction company has the final say. Of course, apart from those relationships with the construction company, there are lots of issues, challenges after the university when I started to work and I became independent. Throughout the whole process, I felt this lack of freedom, and I always had battles throughout my career. When I became independent, what I started to do was I asked tradesmen to do the work for me without going through the construction company. So it's not one company or person have a contract with a contract, but the client has agreements with different people, but it's difficult to see where the responsibility lies. I tried that approach for about 10 years. Because of that, the client didn't give me the freedom to work for them. And combined with the lack of skills, these 10 years had a difficult times borrowing money and having issues for the clients. Maybe because of the lack of money, or lack of time, or the lack of skill on the part of the tradesman, or the issues with my design. So there were lots of limitations, and that led to the lack of freedom, all combined. Lots of issues in terms of freedom.
The 10 years, I was just trying to overcome these obstacles, and I thought, and one day I had this moment. I thought, oh, this is all my responsibility. So I was I was avoiding responsibility, leaving people to deal with them. So I wasn't solving anything. So say lack of budget, lack of time, lack of skills of the engineers. It was me. It was my suggestion. That was my plan. So, and also I chose these engineers. So it was all down to me. And also probably my skill as an architect, designer. So I just came to the conclusion that it was all down to me. And I decided I really have to change. As a result, so I decided to become an engineer. I'll do the construction myself. Once I decided to do so, everything started going really, really smoothly. And I got trust from my clients. And I've got my freedom to design what I want, more or less. So many architects actually do feel this as an inconvenience. I'm sure they can share my sentiment, and the reason is fundamentally, it is the responsibility. The architects don't have the responsibility, don't have freedom, and also no responsibility. So that the society, obviously you have to consider the legal issues. So an architect cannot be responsible for everything, obviously. But in Japan, the head carpenter, there's this tradition about a carpenter being a boss for everything. So in Japan, I know the old way. So now I'm the master carpenter in a very traditional way in Japan. So the actual construction company can actually do that job. So legally, construction companies are allowed to have certain responsibilities. So hence, I can have my freedom as an architect. And so you plan something, you do a drawing, and there's always a pleasure to create something that I originally designed. And about 15 years after I became independent, I feel that I am really able to build what I designed originally in my head. So sticking to the original plan isn't that important. That's what I think recently. Architect's job is practically like making a manual. So making manuals means that anybody can build the same thing using that particular instruction. Anybody should be able to do that, but it's actually a very, very boring job. So in the last 15 years, I think I've been thinking this, and I'm feeling a bit of, I just find it stressful to stick to the original plan. But I didn't know how to break that. So I've been trying different things for the last 10 years. So so stick with what I feel on site. So I have to communicate with engineers about what I want. So of course it is important to stick to the plan, but and we have to think about the functionality. So long as the building is functional, I could be flexible. Right. Let's move on to design. So it's I think this is the theme of this symposium. Nature. How can I say people and nature? The responsibility between people and nature. I want to design that responsibility, and I think it is important for architects. For example, when you talk about nature, you can talk about environment, light, humidity, temperature, smell. There are many aspects of nature. So designing the relationship with nature, I think is important. So what we create is precisely that, I think. So the relationship with the nature, there's a hierarchy. And I'm gonna talk about art later. But forest, greens, like mountains in Japan, villages, towns, and cities, the relationship with nature, the area people living, and the relationship between that and the nature. And when people, it's difficult to live in forest. And I think the mountain towns are sort of in between areas that people can actually live in. So once civilization sort of kick in, people say want to make things. So then it becomes a village, town, and a city. So so the relationship changes. And life, living, housing, that's my field. Clothing and food. and food, especially, so you have to talk about smell and taste. But what the main thing is cells of human body, the relationship between cells and nature. So it's a direct connection. So you really have to. It is a area, sensitive area. So it's about how it's about you really have to be sensitive and have to be careful. And clothing, you talk about materials. You can have man-made materials such as nylon, and housing architecture. So it covers a lot of things, but it kind of goes a bit far from the nature in architecture. So what architecture does, I think, is the food affects directly to human body, but architecture affects people's spirit, people's mind. So again, the relationship with nature of our mind and spirit. So it could be a pleasing environment, comfort. So we need to create something that carries the comfort and warmth. So that's the mission for any architects, I think. So, but the deepest psyche in anyone is loneliness, and how to heal that feeling of loneliness. So I think that is so I mean, obviously loneliness can be healed by other people or any living creatures like animals. That's the most effective thing. But architecture can save people from loneliness. It could be a device in a bigger sense. So then you have to think about the aspects of nature. A long life. Recently, especially, I think this is becoming more important to me. So any social issues in recent years, and I think, this includes, we talk about SDGs and sustainability. I don't have much of a commitment. I kind of feel like I don't want to be won over by this big corporate scheme in a way. I try to stay away a little bit from that. So I want a building that stays in a place for a long time. I mean, in Europe there are many buildings that has got a long history, but in Japan, the lifespan of a building is about 30 to 40 years. So the longevity is I think it is very important. And there are 5 aspects here when I say a long life: structural, functional, economical, and love, also social. So structural, I mean, in Japan we've got so many earthquakes, so I don't think it's very satisfactory. Functional, Japanese buildings, and what makes Japanese buildings lifespan? Why are their lifespan is shorter? That's how we make buildings, especially houses. We call the like a field in Chinese character. We've got this Chinese character meaning field, and in that plan, we actually back in the old age, they lasted like 1,000 years. Well, that was the plan. So the family inherit house. Several generations can live in that same house. Economical renovation, refurbishment, maintenance. So it is important to keep the cost to minimum. So instead of knocking a house down and building a new one, you have to renovate. And the love is feeling towards the building, affection. So how to nurture that feeling of, in a way, attachment to the building. And social is, again, it's about the society. It is, architects can't control the aspects, say, urban planning, political aspects is involved here. So it's just down to the situation. A building cannot be sustained, and the societal changes we can't control. So the first four aspects are very important, I think, to me, and these are the aspects that I'm focusing on. Lastly, Meito Arts Association office, and then I think then I am going to wrap up. This is it's a flat. What this is a space supermarket. A supermarket used to be. I talked about the client in Ogimachi. So it is going to be a workspace, and it's under construction. And the people working here, they are actually gardeners that I work with, Sakurai. So he came up with the methods, this massive, heavy wood plank. So he put this inside the building. Before this, we used paper to like a demo. We actually the practice round with this cardboard prop, and then this is when they are bringing in this big woods, and it took about 15 minutes. The client didn't really have much of a request. He said we could do anything that we want to do, and actually that's a very difficult request. So I was thinking of creating a building in a building, sort of, but I thought that I don't have to do it now. I had wanted to do something. This isn't Ise shrine. It's not. It's a very well-known shrine. It's the path to the main shrine, the pathway. So people walk here to get to the shrine. So when you're walking in the path, it's a kind of spiritual experience. You feel something, an existence of something when you're walking there. So that sensation, so every time I go there, I was feeling the old feeling, and I wanted to recreate that in my architecture. So I thought this is the opportunity to do this. So I suggested that to my client, and my client was happy to do whatever I want to. So I did. So I asked the company that I order my woods, and they prepared everything for me and brought it in here. So this is cedar. And so we peeled this outer skin and brought it in. So the furniture here, I designed all the furniture here. I normally, the engineers that I work with did the job. The floor, so I thought I can't use the standard floor because, so I thought I just wanted to have that powerful aspects, powerfulness of the woods. So I had to have a unique floor to focus on this. So it's a recycled concrete. So powdered concrete, recycled powdered concrete, and that's used as a. And then I added cements in it. The client wasn't really after functionality that much. So he wanted somewhere that we can walk, and obviously you have to mind your steps. As you can see, it's kind of crumbly. And also this is actually outside. It looks like a standard apartment. You can see the concrete. So this is how we built it. This is furniture. And kitchen.
One other thing, if I may. This picture. This is what I want to do in the Serpentine Gallery in London. These people are not here. I don't think so. Okay, I'm good.
And I have so many questions I want to ask, but I want to leave some time for you guys to ask questions. And I love his work. I went to see this forest office, and I was talking to the client, and he was like, when he first moved into the office, he was sort of hearing this like pakin, 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 this noise as the timber dried up slowly. And he was also saying that, and that's, I think Mr. Uno was saying that the all... ちょっと待ってください。ちょっと待ってください。
特にこの these pillars, it takes time to dry them. Totally, it could take years. That make the noise. The house.
Noise, because it was built in timber.
そうです。普通の日本の家もパキパキ音。
Yes, if normal Japanese houses, it could take 10 years to dry.
So, I love the way you've taken on this responsibility to think about and tackle all sorts of problems, including loneliness, and providing comfort and all sorts of things. It's like a sort of expanded role of architects, and I'm impressed by that. Taking control of a lot of things. But I'm wondering if it's feasible to then expand the scale that you're working to take on so much. Like you're saying, okay, well, I need to set up like a construction company so I can control the outcome of the project and so forth. But I imagine once you grow bigger and maybe start building high rises, then what happens? Can you do collaboration? What happens? What are the challenges maybe to carry on? Are you destined to work in small scales?
大きくすることとか。
Expanding. I'm not interested in expanding. I'm interested in build what I want to do in a precise manner. And you have your intention, and that must be conveyed. That requires a small team. It's not my idea to grow big. You have trust with your clients. That way, you can control everything you do, control over everything you do. I don't want to do big projects, public works.
So I'd like to take some questions before we wrap up. So yeah, feel free to raise your hands, and I've got a few more questions, but I would like you guys to engage and ask questions. Megumi-san, don't fall asleep. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, anyone? Anyone interested in asking Uno-san's fantastic way of working as an architect? I think it's a very admirable way of being an architect, and whatever he learned as an architect, he's applying for different areas to help, as he said, to help people get closer to nature and make connecting point there.
Short question about thermal comfort and uses within his project.
Temperature is actually very important. I sometimes do concrete houses. When I do that, we use insulation between concrete structures. In Japan, we have an issue with humidity, not only temperature. We need to take account of that for comfort. Insulation can help so that heat won't escape. This is increasingly important. And I also think about humidity and flow of air. These three elements are important in Japan. But unlike Europe, we don't have much issue with coldness. So we don't use thick insulation, 20, 30 centimeters. These things are taken in account in doing my work.
Hello. Actually, I had a question about your positioning towards the longevity of European building techniques and the difference of vision for Japanese type of longevity for building techniques.
Well, for Japanese, using a house for a long time is really difficult. It's challenging. Culturally speaking, I'm not sure if I can say it. Let's call it culture. But Japanese like novel things. We Japanese don't like something that was used by someone else. That's our character. This is a huge barrier. We have a very shallow understanding of aging of things. We like new things, natural or whatever. We are so sensitive about things getting dirty. We like to replace things with new things. Fortunately, I work with people who have better understanding when it comes to it. They understand the implication or value of aging of things. So, personally, I don't have that as a challenge, but generally, Japanese people like new things. And we replace things in only 20 years. That's a huge barrier. I don't know the solution to that. Any solution to that.
One last question. I have one. I really want to ask him. how important is it for you? I know you work a lot with artisans. How important is it for you to kind of pass on the traditional craft? I know that you you talked about how to work with modern technology and mixing it with tradition, right? And some of the issue we have come across with rural depopulation and all that, a lot of traditional crafts disappearing, wisdom, alongside with wisdoms and so forth, knowledge. So is there a way for architects to kind of carry on that heritage, maybe? Especially in Japan, I think we don't preserve old buildings. We sort of just demolish everything, including modernist architects. So how important is it for you to carry on that tradition? Yeah. 伝統で伝承していくこと。
ですね。
I understand it's tremendously important to preserve tradition, Japanese culture, to the general public who get their houses built. They have very little interest, and it's economically difficult. These companies, house makers, build houses, which is remote from Japanese tradition. Thinking about comfort, the biggest barrier is the budget and the costs, building costs. On the other hand, most of the Japanese people are not accustomed to living in a traditional environment because many people grew up in concrete-built flats. Living in a traditional environment is a sort of high culture area that is protected by political will. There are few people who stick to tradition and build houses and buildings based on tradition. I don't think that way we can carry on traditions. That the Japanese tradition could be preserved by political will. That's where we are at the moment. What I'm going to achieve, what I am aspiring to do is we base ourselves on traditions. My wooden buildings, the materials are machine cut. My people, my tradesmen can use their hand to do that if they want to, but I use machines to cut the materials. That's the reason, because further down the road, if you use your hand to process your wood material, by using machines, it's better in terms of this is used more widely by the general public. Machine cut techniques can be deployed by a few limited companies, but doing that, you can build a house that can be more widely spread. That's why I deliberately use machine cut techniques. This is my position in relation to tradition.
I think we're going to have to wrap up now. It's lunchtime, so we're going to come back at 1, and Mr. Tanaka will from Zero Waste Town will be speaking. He's a person, not an architect, but a person behind the whole idea of launching this tiny village in Shikoku as Zero Waste Town. So you can hear about that. But thank you, Mr. Uno-san. Uno-san,ありがとうございました。Round of applause, please.
ありがとうございました。
Fantastic lecture.